everybody. How's it going? I hope you're all well. As ever, I am delighted to see people from so many different parts of life showing up here. I know there's some folks here from York. Hey, Wendy, how's it going? I know we've got some EA fans here, and we've got a bunch of TMA folks here too. Thank you so much, as ever, for showing up. Marguerite is to my immediate left, flying the other desk.
Hi, we're trying something new. I'm going to try to use Alistair's computer tonight so that I can offer unsolicited commentary.
In real time. For newcomers, here's what we do. Basically, you've got about 10 minutes to get kind of situated and comfy. Make sure you got water. If you need meds, take them. Have a food. If you need to make sure the bedroom door is firmly closed so the suave lumberjack catboy can't slam it, it's firmly closed, right?
I'll go down.
It is not.
Open.
It is not. The bedroom door is not closed. I repeat, we are not okay. We are not okay. Hold on.
The bedroom door
We're good.
is not closed.
We're good. We're good. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Stop that. Stop it. Anyway, welcome. While you are getting situated, two things. Firstly, this week's fan art is by Fluffy Taco and is amazing, and is of the video game Concrete Genie, which we're playing on the Sunday stream at the moment. And secondly, what I do while you're all getting comfy is just read an opening monologue. Sometimes it's about being a shark. Sometimes it's about something other than a shark. This week, it's about cake. Kind of. This Oreo mug cake is only a mild cry for help, by Claire Lauer. About once a year I get depressed and make a mug cake. It is never very satisfying. There is something particularly bleak about measuring teaspoons and pinches of baking ingredients, only to be rewarded with a damp mug of something that is a vague approximation of cake. There are some exemplar tweets here. Well, I guess I'm into mug cakes now. March 31st, 2016. Should I buy a microwave just so I can make mug cakes? June 24th. Just googled mug cake, so I might be depressed. June 22nd. I should make a microwave cake in a mug. True, false. Mug cake feelings crept up on me, almost like clockwork, a few weeks ago, though I ended up settling on a bowl cookie, which was just as bad, if not worse, than the mug cakes of years past. Perhaps if I could just download TikTok already, things would have been different. Maybe I would have seen this Oreo mug cake recipe sooner, and maybe I would have made that instead. Perhaps instead of a bowl of damp, spongy, but somehow not chewy cookie batter, I could have had a mug of Oreo-flavoured not quite lava cake. Instead of measuring and stirring, I could have splashed and stabbed. The most depressing aspect of mug cakes is how much effort they actually require. Flour, sugar, leavening agents, and measuring spoons are all still needed, but somehow the end product is disproportionately mediocre. Mug cakes mock their maker with their bland inferiority, which is, as it turns out, something which does nothing to help with depression. Anyway, since I don't have TikTok, I first saw this sort of recipe on The Kitchen, where it was described as magical. I would not use that word to describe it. But this mug cake is certainly better than any other mug cake I have had. Taste and texture-wise, it exists somewhere in between a BJ's Pizookie and molten chocolate cake, only a little lighter in flavour and much less labour-intensive than either. In theory, all you have to do is throw some cookies in a mug, pour in enough milk to fill half the mug, about a third of a cup, and stab and mash until you have an Oreo sludge. The mug goes into the microwave for 75 seconds, and out comes a gooey chocolate cake. In practice, my Oreo cake mug-making experience varied only slightly from what was presented in the video. I had to microwave mine for a full minute and a half. It was very liquid at first, and I had to add a couple of extra Oreos to make a thick sludge. It takes 8 dry Oreos to fill the mug, but 10 total to get the batter where you want it. The first Oreo mug cake was moist and warm, but not as chocolatey as I had expected it to be, so I made another one and added 2 tablespoons of Hershey's syrup to the milk, which, amazingly, actually made it very good. All in all, I think I actually prefer the flavour and experience of eating 4 or 5 Oreos with a tall glass of cold milk, but this was still the best mug cake I've ever made, and it would be particularly good with ice cream. It's not quite a cry for help, more a polite request for assistance, but the Oreo mug cake does not pretend to be something it's not. rather than masquerading as actually quite good, it embraces the inescapable desperation that leads one to such a confection in the first place. Stab the cookies. It whispers, stab them real good. Make a sludge. If that's not a fitting mood for these times, I don't know what is. Claire Lower is the senior food editor for Lifehacker and a noted duck fat enthusiast. She lives in Portland, Oregon, with a slightly hostile cat.
Any cake recipe that involves stabbing cookies sounds pretty good to me.
I have to admit, it has my attention. It may have made the to-do list, you know. So, the next thing that we do before we kick off is we briefly touch on things which are new with me. At Silver, I love gender. Masquerading is actually quite good.
I thought today's gender should be a polite request for assistance. Disproportionately mediocre is another excellent daily gender.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's been an interesting week so far. I'm not sure whether I updated you on the Saga of the Doctor Who book, the one about Day of the Doctor that I'm writing. I finally sent the email I was frightened to send about how it's basically done. I just need some more time. And the editor was like, "We have months. Don't worry about it. Just make it good, dude. Don't write more than you have to," which is, the kind of thing which makes me plan on cloning the editor and seeding him discreetly through every publishing company in the land. So that's going all right. What else have I got on at the moment? It's a short week this week for a reason I'm not entirely certain I'm allowed to tell you, but I think I might tell you anyway. It's Marguerite's birthday this week.
Yes, this weekend.
And we are taking a long weekend off, like a long weekend, like 4 days. We're not working. It's really weird. I'm looking forward to it. I am excited. And as a result of that, all the stuff which you normally do in a week, we've had to do in 4 days. And this being a week in July, in the run-up to Worldcon, that amount of things has functionally doubled. But slowly but surely, we are drawing our plans against them, and soon we'll arrive on Earth.
If you're going to say something like that, do the whole line. Do it properly.
Slowly, gradually, they drew their plans against us.
There we go.
Dun dun dun. Stuff's getting done. Full Lid's going to come out on time. There's a special highlighting all the best fan writer finalists, including me, which is also much more done than it was this morning when I was all like, it'll never be done in time. Voting's not open yet. I'm kicking my own ass for no reason. Let's not do that.
Hashtag swears.
Hashtag swears. Thanks, Cap. So there's that. What else is going on? Yeah, I have to write a flash fiction piece tomorrow for the Full Lid, actually, which I'm excited about. One of the big stories we've got across the next couple of weeks is long-term friend Matt Wallace has a new book out called Savage Legion, which is basically Matt brutally attacking all the worst tropes of grimdark fantasy for 3 books. It's going to be great. And he's contributing a piece of flash fiction to the Full Lid, and I'm doing one as well, and that's going to be in this week. So that's a thing that's happening, and I'm looking forward to stepping daintily back into that pool.
Did you talk about getting paid in cookies this week?
I was winding up for that.
Oh, okay.
Also, a few days ago, a friend of mine, DM'd me and went, "Al, what can I bribe you with to help me beta read a book?" And I was like, "Nothing, it's fine, it's you. But I am quite fond of Oreos." And then yesterday afternoon around 4 o'clock, there was a buzz at the front door. I went downstairs and an Amazon delivery had arrived. It was a crate of Oreos. An actual, legit, honest-to-God crate.
See, this is the nice thing about
This is the great thing about having video. We can provide visual aids. This is great.
Last week it was Chungus. This week it is the crate of Oreos.
See, when I say a crate, I am not kidding. Oreos to stab, right?
Exactly. Okay, so I'm not gonna go get a knife on the street.
No. We ain't doing that. But yes. So the cunning plan is this is it's my wages. So I'm going to beta read a chapter at a time, and after a chapter, I'll write up the report for them, and then I'll eat some Oreos, or possibly stab some. Yeah, it's been quite an odd week so far, but it has been a very good one. So, shall we move on to the recap? Deep in chat.
People were asking about Chungus, so I was just letting them know that Chungus is
fine.
He's had dinner. He's rising. He's all good. There's no recap screen anymore.
There isn't. I know. I'm reading my script. I'm being very professional.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hi. We're having fun.
Doing it live. Do it live. The recap. For the last few weeks, we have been doing a very long-form creepypasta called Search and Rescue by Kerry Hammond. It's really good. It's all presented as testimony from an anonymous search and rescue officer in a carefully anonymized American national park. It's a collection of testimonies and recollections from him and several of his colleagues, all of which boil down to two things. The wild spaces of America are wrong in a profoundly disturbing way. The further out you get, the wronger things become. There are things out there that hunt you, things out there that want to help you somehow. And there are stairs at random. Each time they look like they're from a different building in the middle of nowhere, attached to trees. If you go up them, terrible, terrible things happen. And every search and rescue officer is trained in this, and every search and rescue officer eventually wants to know why. So that's where we are. Content warnings for this are pretty burly. This is extreme stuff. In the 6 parts we've done so far, it's dealt with child death, mutilation, just a wide variety of deeply, profoundly horrible things. And these last 2 parts are less horrible, but still pretty much hit exactly the same beats. So, content warnings for gore, child death, and I'm going to throw in existential trauma as well.
There's also some pretty graphic descriptions of injuries.
Yeah, there's some nasty stuff this time. So if you are of a squeamish nature, please feel free to step out for, I would guess this will take about half an hour. And then come back for shenanigans.
Yeah. Also profanity.
There is some profanity as well.
And we have marked the stream mature for profanity and horror content.
Yes. Okay, so that's the recap, and that's the content warnings. I think it might be time to shift camera and do the story.
Just one last reminder, water, meds, food.
Yes, of course. Anyone who needs some water, please grab some. Anyone who has some meds they need to take and they haven't, please take them. Anyone who needs to make sure the bedroom door is shut. Anyone who needs to make sure the bedroom...
Yes. The bedroom door remains shut. Check for, spare cat boys.
Kato, I don't blame you at all.
You ready?
I am...
Shall we set the mood?
The mood. Let us set, as you say, the mood. Very well. Search and Rescue by Kerry Hammond. Part 7. Content warnings, death of children and infants, descriptions of gore and bodily injury, profanity. One of the topics that I get asked about a lot here and in real life involve things like the rake, the Wendigo, and other related legends. I can't honestly say that I know a lot about any of them, but based on some light reading I did, I can say that I've heard stories that seem to be loosely related to them. You've heard the old adage that legends like that come from somewhere, right? I'm sure that's true, but as you all know, I do try to take things with a grain of salt. You have to, out here. It's sort of like working in a hospital. You could spend all day thinking about how many people have died here and how there are probably ghosts, or whatever you want to call them, all over the place, but it doesn't do you any good. It just makes it harder to do your job. I think a lot of us feel that way, and that's why we try to just go about our work like everything is fine. Once you get paranoid, there's not really any going back, and a lot of cadets quit because of it. My park especially seems to have a high turnover rate because the cadets graduate and get so freaked out about everything, and they can't seem to let it go. And you have to learn, you know? You have to learn to internalize this stuff and shut it off. I've talked to KD a bit about her experience because I wanted to know what she thought about the Wendigo. She didn't really have anything in particular to say about it, apart from that she didn't want to think about it that much, but she told me a friend of hers had had something similar happen. I contacted this person, H, over Skype, and they agreed to talk to me a bit. They're aware of my work here, and they're fine with me posting the story exactly as they wrote it. So here we go. I grew up in Central Oregon, and there's a reservation called Warm Springs, about 2 or so hours from where I lived. I only mention that because a lot of people in my area have friends there, and a lot of the land in that area belongs to that tribe. When I was a kid, we used to go camping up there. Not on the res, of course, but in that area. And I met a lot of kids who grew up there. I got to know one kid really well. His name was Nolan, and we ended up hanging out a lot when our families were in the area. Our folks got to know each other, so we'd all get in touch and camp out around the same time. We camped for about 2 weeks, so we were out there for a long time. I asked him if he camped in an RV. Yeah, my dad had one. So I guess it wasn't really camping, but we'd take our tents and stuff and set them up out away from camp most nights. I didn't like sleeping in there because I like being outside. We talked for a bit about camping. So, anyway, sorry, one year Nolan and I were out there. I think we must have been like 12 or something. We wanted to go out and camp near the river because we wanted to try night fishing. I think we must have been about 1/3 of a mile from the main camp, far enough away that we couldn't see or hear anyone else. I remember that much. We were messing around most of the day. I don't really remember much about it, but we ended up building a fire at some point, and I was really impressed because he had this flint or something that he used to start it. I'd never seen anyone do that before, so I thought it was pretty cool. I got him to teach me how to do it, and we lit some stuff on fire, which looking back was really stupid because it was the middle of fucking summer. If I remember right, the fire warning was yellow or orange, but thankfully we didn't start anything major. And when it got dark, we sat around and talked about whatever it is 12-year-olds talk about. I don't really remember. What I do remember is that at some point he looked over my shoulder at the river and asked me if I could see something. Now, the way our camp was set up, we were about 10 feet from the river, and we were at the widest point, so it was probably about 20 feet to the other bank. It gets hot up there in the summer, but the water's still cold, and that's really important. I look over my shoulder, and I could see something wading into the river on the other side. From where we were, it looked like a deer, but we couldn't really tell because of the fire. I got up to look closer, saw a pair of antlers, so I figured it was a buck. But I thought it was weird that it was wading into the water, and it was definitely heading for us. And I asked Nolan what he thought we should do. He's looking at the fire with this weird expression, and he tells me to sit down and shut up. So I do, because I'd never seen him act that way before. He's whispering at me, ignore it, and to just keep talking like we were, but I couldn't think of anything to say. He was saying something about some episode of some show, but I could hear the deer coming through the water, so I wasn't really paying any attention, and I kept trying to see over his shoulder, but every time I did, he sort of hit me on the arm and make me look at him. I wasn't really scared. I remember that. I was just sort of confused. But then I hear the deer come out of the water, and I could kind of make out what it looked like, and I realised it wasn't a deer, because whatever it was walking on 2 legs. I started to get up. I was super freaked out, but Nolan just yanked me back down and talked louder about this television show, and I could tell he was just as scared as I was, probably even more. He leaned in, poked the fire with a stick, and he whispered that whatever I do, I can't speak to it. I could see it come closer, and it stood right behind Nolan's back. I was about ready to pee my pants, to be honest, and I think I'd probably have run if I'd been alone. But I didn't want to leave Nolan, so I kept sitting really still and sneaking glances at it. It wasn't that tall, but the way it carried itself was just wrong. Like its centre of balance was screwed up. I can't really describe it, but it was kind of like it kept shifting too far forwards. I just stood there behind Nolan for a long time, and eventually Nolan ran out of things to say. And we just kind of sat there for a second. The fire was making noise, but I think I could hear this thing talking in a really, really low voice. I couldn't hear what it was saying, and I leaned forward a tiny little bit, and I actually did pee my pants when it leaned forward too. I couldn't see its face, but I saw its eyes. They were cloudy and milky, and if you want to know what they look like, find that scene from Lord of the Rings where Frodo falls in that lake and all the dead people are floating towards him. That's what its eyes looked like. So all I saw were these two white eyes floating above Nolan's head and the really vague shape of the antlers coming out of its head, and I don't know what my face looked like, but at exactly the same time Nolan and I fucking booked it out of there, and we ran non-stop until we got back to the main camp. My pants were soaked with pee, so I took them off as we were running and threw them in the bushes. We both stopped once we were in front of my dad's RV, and we couldn't see anything chasing us, so we stood there and caught our breath. I asked him what that thing was, and he said he didn't know. He said his grandpa had only warned him that if anything ever came up to him when he was out in the desert, he was never, ever supposed to talk to it or listen to anything it had to say. I wanted to know if he'd heard talking too, and he said the only thing he'd been able to understand was help you. I think we ended up sleeping in the RV with my parents, and the next night we went back out and didn't see anything. That does remind me in a lot of ways of the Wendigo legend. There's a phrase used to describe it that I think fits perfectly, which is that the Wendigo is the spirit of the lonely places. I know sometimes when I'm out in the wilds, when I know there's no one around me for miles and miles, I get this weird kind of craving that I can't really explain. I don't know if it happens to anyone else, but it's this desire to consume. It's not like I crave anything in particular, but more of this weird distracting hunger that comes from every part of my gut. I also wanted to find out more about the Faceless Man, if I was able, and found a few similar things. I asked around my circle of friends, and one of them said when he was out doing repairs at a park in his area, he saw something kind of like that. We were having dinner in town, 5 of us, including myself. This guy, he was repainting an information booth and heard a man asking for directions to the nearest campsite. He didn't turn around because he was up on a ladder, but he informed the guy that there weren't any campsites nearby, but that if he headed down the road about 4 miles, he'd find one at another park. He asked if he could be of any other help, but the man said no and thanked him. My friend said he kept painting, but he was listening and never heard the man leave. The second he came up and talked to me, the hairs on my neck stood up, but I wasn't sure why. I just had this really uneasy feeling about the whole thing, and I wanted to finish painting and get out of there. I figured maybe part of it was that I couldn't turn around to look at him, but something just felt off. There was this weird smell floating around even before the guy talked to me, kind of like old period blood. I looked around to see what was causing it, but I couldn't find anything, so I waited for the guy to walk away, but I didn't hear him leave, which made me think he was just standing there and watching me, so I asked, again, if I could do anything for him, and he didn't answer. I knew he was there, though, because I hadn't heard him leave. So I did this awkward turn on the ladder to look down and see what he was doing. Now, I admit it could have just been my brain fucking up, but I swear to you, Russ, for a split second when I turned around, that fucker didn't have a face. Like, no face. Nothing. It was almost concave and totally smooth. And I just about had a fucking heart attack because I couldn't even wrap my brain around what I was seeing. I think I started to say something, but there was this kind of pop inside my head, and suddenly it was just a normal looking guy. I must have looked weird because he asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine. He asks about the campsite again, and I point to where he has to go, and he's like, I'm not from around here. Can you help me get there? Now, this is when I knew something is really up, because there's no way this guy got out here and didn't know where he was. And for that matter, there's no car around. So how did he get here in the first place? I said I was sorry, but that I couldn't take him anywhere in a company vehicle. And he's like, please, I really don't know where I am. Can you come with me and help me get there? So now I'm seriously weirded out, and I start wondering if this is some sort of ambush or whatever. I told him I could call him a taxi to come out and take him where he wants to go. And I pull out my phone and he just goes, no. And walks away really quickly. But he doesn't walk out of the park. He walks back into the fucking tree line. And I get right in my fucking truck and start to get out of there. Fuck the paint or whatever. I looked in my mirror to see where he was as I was leaving. And he's just standing at the tree line. I don't know how he got there so fast, but this time I know that fucker didn't have a face. He was just watching me leave, and right before I turned the corner, he took a big step back into the trees and just kind of dissolved. Maybe it was just dark, so he blended in. But it felt more like he just melted away. Interestingly, right after this guy finished his story, someone else piped up with another one, but with a slightly different twist. You know, actually, I had something sort of weird happen like that a while back. I was out doing some trail scouting, and I was out in the middle of nowhere, figuring out where we were going to have this trail run through. I hadn't seen anyone else for about 2 hours. I wasn't really paying attention to where I was going, if I'm honest. I was just looking at the ground for the most part. Then, out of nowhere, I crested this little hill and almost ran into this guy. He was older, probably in his 60s, and I started to apologize to him for running into him. And then I noticed his face, and I probably looked like a complete douchebag because I stopped and just stared at him. It took me a second to figure out what was wrong. But this guy's face was huge. I know that sounds weird, but that's the only way I can describe it. His head wasn't big or anything. It was normal, but the amount of space his face took up was just way too much. Like if you took someone's face and enlarged it by about 2 times. He doesn't say anything. He just kind of looks at me. And I backed up and I was kind of stuttering and saying, oh, I'm terribly sorry. And I went around him and fucking got out of there and did what I needed to do. The whole time, I kept looking behind me because I was so freaked out that he'd pop up or something. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I swear to you, it was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. I switched the topic to the stairs a little later, and there was a definite shift in enthusiasm. No one spoke up at first. There's a real stigma around discussing them, even when we're away from work. But I broke the ice with a story of my own, and the guy who told me about the faceless man told this one, albeit quite quietly. A couple of years ago, I was camping with my girlfriend, and we're out about 2 miles from the road at this site I know. We went to bed that night, but we couldn't sleep because someone interjected a funny comment, and we were dangerously close to going off on another subject, but I got us on track. Yeah, really funny, fucker. No, it was because we kept hearing that grinding noise. My brother used to grind his teeth in his sleep, and it kind of reminds me of that. My girlfriend was freaking out, but I just kept telling her to ignore it, because I've heard it before, and you just have to ignore it. It goes away eventually. You guys know what I mean. We all know what he meant. So eventually I get her to go to sleep, but I woke up probably 2 hours later because something was just off. I rolled over, she wasn't there. I kind of freaked out because he thought for a second and then he took a very, very long drink. Anyway, I I ran out of the tent calling her name, but I didn't have to go far. She was standing at the edge of the camp looking at something in the trees, and I could see she was so pale. The fire was low, but bright enough to see her. Anyway, so I ran up to see what was going on. She was dead asleep, but her eyes were open. And she had this real spaced out look, so I put my arm around her to lead her back. But she wouldn't move. She just said something really quietly, something like, "I have to go now, Eddie. I have to go. It's here." I was like, "You're just sleepwalking, come back to bed," but she wouldn't budge. She just kept standing there and saying that she had to go. And I looked where she was looking, and there was a fucking staircase about 15 yards away. Grey one. Concrete, and she started to walk towards it, but I yanked her back, and that woke her up. She looked at me like I was fucking out of my mind, and she asked what the fuck she was doing out of the tent. I didn't tell her, I just told her she was sleepwalking. The grinding was gone, so she just went back to the tent with me and fell asleep again. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like thinking about it, We all knew. You guys remember that kid with, I can't remember what it was, some kind of brain fuck up. Not Downs, something like it. Someone else was brought up. Well, I got to read the report he gave when they found him a week after he went missing, and it was fucked up beyond belief. I mean, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because who knows what that kid actually thinks is real. But some of this stuff, I mean, Jesus, I don't think he could have made it up. Like what? Well, first of all, he talked about the stairs. He said he'd been watching his dad build a fire and the stairs came up to him, and he had to go up them or something bad would happen. The cops couldn't really understand what he was talking about after that, because he just kept saying, like the campfire, over and over, and he just kept mentioning sounds, but he couldn't say what sounds, just that it was loud, and he covered his ears so he couldn't hear them. But the thing I remember most is that they asked him where exactly he'd gone, and he said he was right there. He kept pointing at himself, and they said they thought that meant that he thought he'd never left. He said he wasn't scared because the stairs were there, and he said they talked to him. But not like people talk. Like I said, really convoluted, hard to understand. I have a feeling the cops didn't take most of it down. They ended up just saying that the kid had some kind of amnesia or fugue, and that they didn't think foul play was involved. Doesn't really explain why he came back a week later perfectly fine without a speck of dirt on him and well fed, but hey, what the cops say goes, right? There are still a lot of questions I want to answer. I'll continue to ask around and find out whatever I can. The next update should be soon. Thanks for being so patient. Part 8. Content warnings. Death of children and infants. Descriptions of gore and bodily injury. Profanity. This will be my final update for now. Things have deteriorated here to a degree that I didn't foresee. I didn't know how much writing about the things that are happening out here would affect every single part of my life, and maybe that was stupid of me. Maybe I should have considered it more seriously, but honestly, I just thought I was writing about things a few people would want to hear. I never thought it would get this much attention. People ask me about the stairs now. Doesn't happen every day, but when it does, I never really know what to say. My bosses know someone is talking about them, and I'm sure that if they know, the higher-ups know. And I can tell you, none of them are happy about it. I've been formally told that I am not to speak a word about them to anyone anymore, which is part of the reason this has to be my final update. I can't risk my job for this. As much as it's been wonderful to get a lot of these things off my mind, I still do love my work, and I need to be out here. If anything, my being aware of what's really going on is enough reason to stick it out. I may not be able to tell people that they're out there, but if I see them, I can at least direct traffic away to somewhere safer. Because of the amount of attention the stories have gotten, I've heard a lot of stories being swapped back and forth. I've heard so many, I can't even remember most of them. The ones I do remember are the ones that I wish I could forget. One story that's made the rounds here was about a woman who disappeared upstate. Young woman. Initially, everyone assumed she was a runaway. She didn't come from a great home life, and it really wasn't any kind of surprise that she would choose to cut and run. But people started coming forward saying that they've seen her around the park shortly before she vanished, so some of the rangers in the area were sent out to make sure she hadn't hung herself or something on any of the back trails. Took them a while. They did find her. Not all of her. Half of her tongue and a quarter of the lower jaw. Very clean cuts, from what I heard. The rest has never been found. So many stories about children. So many of them going missing and turning up in caves, wedged in between impossibly tight spaces. So many of them found on mountain peaks or at the bottom of sheer gullies, missing shoes, missing socks, or found with both in perfect condition despite them being miles and miles away from where they vanished. So many stories of black-eyed people wandering around the woods and calling out in the night, mimicking the sound of running water or a bobcat screaming. One man in particular goes to every news station he thinks will listen to him, and he tells the same story. He was deer hunting, had camped out in a very remote area, and woke up because something was scraping against his tent. He thought it was a raccoon or a fox until the thing pressed its face against the door, at which point he could very clearly make out a human nose and mouth. He kicked at it, but it leapt back and was gone by the time he opened the tent flap, gun at his side. Fired 2 warning shots, and when the sound had faded, he heard a snap behind him. A man was standing at the edge of the campsite. This man was not wearing any clothing, but he also did not possess any kind of human flesh. As this hunter described it, the man was made of some kind of amalgamation of raw meat and hair, as if someone had scooped up roadkill and moulded it into the vague shape of a man. The face was lumpy, only a rough approximation of a human face. It opened its lopsided mouth, and from it came the sound of the gun the hunter had just fired. It did this twice before mimicking the sound of the tent zipper and fleeing into the night. A young couple out for a hike in the rocky areas of my park reported to me yesterday that they had seen something strange out on a peak I am very familiar with. They were taking turns looking through a pair of binoculars when the man noticed a hiker climbing up a very steep part of the cliff face. He watched the man scale the slope, and it didn't occur to him until the incident was over that this person had no climbing gear. When the climber reached the top of the peak, which was about 5 miles away, they turned and faced the young man. He said whoever or whatever this person was looking right at them. The climber waved in an exaggerated manner before snapping in half at the waist, sideways, and leaping off the peak. The young man didn't see where the climber landed. I sent them on their way with assurances that I'd check it out, and I lied. I won't be turning in a report because there are 10 others exactly like it. The climber is well known in that area. I don't question it anymore. There are so many things I won't ever be able to understand about my job, and it would take me years to relate all of the things I've heard in the last few months. When I feel like my job isn't in jeopardy, I will come back. It may be in a different format, but I will come back. Thank you all for sticking by my side and enjoying the things I've talked about. If you go out into the woods, I encourage you to be safe. Bring water, food, survival equipment. Let people know where you're going and when you will be back. Don't go on uncharted paths unless you know exactly what you're doing. And above all, don't touch them. Don't look at them. Don't go up them. And that's search and rescue. It's all right, the light's back on. They can't get us now. How's everybody doing?
Take a few minutes, breathe. Do you want to talk about the addenda?
Yes, this is actually a really interesting...
Dramatic place to pause and sip some water.
It's become instinct. It's like Horatio Kane in CSI Miami putting his sunglasses on. Yeah! This is a really interesting story, and it's actually one of the things I really like about creepypasta, in that it is a form that is by nature very protean. I can't help but wonder whether that's why some of the things in the park are like they are in this piece. It's constantly working on what spaces it can fill. Unfortunately, as I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, because Kerry Hammond sold the rights to the Channel Zero TV show to loosely adapt this, to the best of our knowledge, there won't be any more search and rescue stuff. However, there are some very weird offshoots. There are 4 or 5 stories of wildly varying lengths which inform on this, which play with certain other motifs. And also the other parapsychologist that's named a lot in the opening parts, I think is also another set of stories in and of himself. So, what we're looking at doing next week is maybe hoovering these small pieces up, just so we get as complete a picture as we possibly can. You gonna come on camera?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'll veer over.
Veer.
I'm gonna do my hair. Nobody gets to make fun of my hair, but that's it. Okay. So what we were thinking about doing is next week, maybe kind of sweeping up those kind of little bits and pieces and talking about the story a bit more. And then we want to come up with a couple of proposals for what we're going to move on to next. And
some of it's happy.
and basically give you folks the chance to have a little bit of input about what we want to move on to next for the next story.
Jax, just seeing your comment about Unsolved Mysteries. We watched the first episode of that a little while ago.
Here's the thing, okay? So both Alistair and I, if you could not tell, are huge Star Trek geeks. And so we really love the original show with Jonathan Frakes. And so watching the new one without Jonathan Frakes is a little disconcerting.
Yeah, I keep expecting a big lad in a well-tailored shirt to come on screen and go, but what about the dog? If you were offered that big a cowboy hat, would you say yes? You know, that kind of thing.
Oh, he's just absolutely ridiculous non sequiturs. So yeah, we are enjoying it. It's just kind of slow going. But what we are watching right now, you can scoot over a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to scoot over.
You can scoot over a little bit?
I'm going to scoot over a little bit. Okay.
Oh, hey everybody. How are you? But what we are watching right now is Alistair has never seen Gargoyles.
Ever. The
animated series. So we just started watching those as kind of like lunch breaks. So hi Zalia, how are you? So that's what we're doing right now is we are watching Gargoyles.
Yes.
You're like two episodes into it. That's it. He's never seen it before.
Clearly Evil Riker has shown up with his castle on top of his skyscraper.
And his slimy late 80s ponytail.
It is now the definition of rock and roll villainy for me, that you have enough money to have your castle moved to the top of your skyscraper in New York. And also, before it's formally opened, you have that whole kind of, look, ninjas are going to happen, right? So I'm going to need holdout blasters in various locations, but please make it artisanal. Hide them inside the mason work.
Yes, make it integrated into my expensively relocated castle. Yeah, exactly. So we're watching Gargoyles. So yeah, next week I think we're going to do some of the sweep-ups of the search and rescue stuff, and then we'll have a couple of kind of proposed stories for what to go on to. You have one creepypasta that you have in mind.
Yes.
We want to find something kind of ghost story fae-y because folks have talked a lot about that, and that might be good. And then we were thinking about maybe trying something funny as a treat, as a little mood lightener if people were in the mood for it.
Jack, seriously, the second episode is a story from Z's childhood home.
What?
The second episode of Unsolved Mysteries is A story from Z's childhood.
Okay, fine. We'll go watch that one and we'll talk about
of
it
course.
next week. Now we're going to have to go watch it and talk about it next week. What is going on? What do you mean my skincare routine? No, that's just really good lighting, folks. That's all that is.
She's lying.
Shut up. Hush now. Do we have to talk about skincare? Not now. We don't need to talk about skincare. There's other fun things to talk about. Yes, it's a lot of light. There's a lot of front light coming from this monitor. That's why I'm going. I do have cheekbones. That's probably what's happening. And I am wearing lipstick because I had an interview earlier today. So, hey. But that's it.
Your hair looks really good.
And it looks okay. I haven't had a haircut in
3 months.
Since Pod UK in February, I think. So, it's been a while. Oh, well. Yes, interview. I think I've talked about this before on Sunday. I was made redundant last week. So when I was put on furlough in June, I kind of started passively looking. And so now I'm job searching, which is, it is what it is. At least I'm here in the UK where such things are much more flexible and a little more humane in terms of notice periods and such.
And she's doing so great,
I'm doing fine. I mean, we'll look around. Part of me is really tempted to do one of those, this is what I want from the universe in terms of my next job, but what I want is about that wide, and there's not a lot of it out there. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm a commercial lawyer. That's my day job, and publishing is our passionate side hustle, and streaming is what we do for fun now because we're all in lockdown. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the space I'm looking in. If any of you are, big wigs inside publishing companies who need lawyers, hit me up, that kind of thing. But I don't imagine it's not going to be that popular. That's okay. We're going on a tangent. This is not about me. We're talking about you.
No, we were talking about this.
Yeah, but we could talk about some shenanigans.
You know what we're going to need?
I think you should get ready.
Because if we're going to do shenanigans, firstly, please note the stamp. Hold on, let me see if I can do this right. Yes! Observe the stamp. Observe it.
Well done. We'll go to the next one, because look what I built for you.
And then... Oh, thank you.
See, now you gotta move your head, because your face is in the way of the stamp. That was the wrong button.
It does mean I'm officially Alex approved, though.
And let me dig up the tweet. Let me go back over here.
We have proof, folks.
Proof.
We have proof.
Proof from Alex. Proof that Alex approved shenanigans. Alistair's head is Alex approved. That is correct. Hold on. Let me find Mr. Newell's. Probably inadvertent, but I have proof now, so it's not allowed anymore.
It's on the internet now, Bunky.
Explain to folks what shenanigans are. If you haven't
Shenanigans are essentially the Peter Lucas Power Hour. The point at the end of the show where basically is a means of brain sorbet after having done kind of, and then the camper turned around and had no face.
I think you literally did that tonight too.
Yes, I did. Also, the whole kind of toneless, could you take me to the next camp, please?
Yes, that was very, very creepy.
Thank you. Basically, this is brain sorbet. This is a way to kind of round things off with something which will make you smile, as opposed to something which will make you double check the bedroom door.
The bedroom,
we're good. We're good. We're still good.
So closed.
We're still good.
Peter Lucas Power Hour. What have you done?
Do you know what I've done? Shenanigans. La 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 shenanigans.
I'm going to have to go back and dig to find it, but needless to say, there was an exchange on Twitter that had to do with redundant validation, and so, yes, it is kind of semi...
There's no such thing as redundant validation.
Exactly. I mean, he said it out loud on Twitter where people could notice it, so it's real. The sticker is staying, Alex. It's not going away. You just have to make yourself comfortable with that.
So, some time ago, a lot of the time Shenanigans is fan fiction, and some time ago there was an incredible piece of fan fiction done about the Magnus Archive's attempts to become GDPR compliant.
But you've forgotten. Because you folks on Twitter have decided to make a meme out of the, oh no, this is just a normal statement for the archivists to read, and then we're going to go on a wildly world-destroying tangent. And we've seen so many of these on Tumblr and on Twitter this week. We just picked one of them.
And, one of you is about to find this very, very familiar. So, who's ready to bitch about TMA fan creators? Personally, I think it's inexcusable that people... Hello, John. Apologies for the deception, but I wanted to make sure that you were reading. Okay, now that people have dropped off, Peter big, so I thought it best not to announce myself.
You should put a link to that in the tweet, in the chat, because you have it right there and I do not. Yes, it's totally become a meme now. It's all your fault. It's all over Twitter. We love them. We love them all.
There you go. You are very, very welcome. Now, the GDPR story, which is basically it's one of those once in a lifetime moments where someone goes, "This fan fiction has been written for me."
No, it was written for me.
In Marguerite's case,
it's my favorite fan fiction.
Are we doing all of this? Because this is quite long.
So set up the premise here. What do we got?
Okay. Have you tried turning it on and off again? How the Magnus Institute learned to embrace the IT ticketing system, upgraded their antivirus, and still found the time to teach one old man how to copy and paste.
So this is by Shiny Opals. It is a spiritual sequel to the GDPR beholding fanfic. It is it's somewhat lengthy, so I'm not sure if we'll actually read all of this. You did the summary last time.
So do you want me to just start with the notes?
Oh, well, you can start with the email from Elias to Peter,
okay.
And then you can kind of pick and choose a couple of things as you go through. How about that?
From Elias Bouchard to plucas@yahoo.co.uk. Date 9th August 2017, 8:47 a.m. Subject, events. Attachments, Institute handover .docx. How to win friends. Is it going so well? How to win friends and influence people. .pdf. Peter. Events are proceeding approximately in line with how I might have expected. The unknowing was prevented and my archivist is functionally dead. Although not yet enough that he needs replacing. I shall be paying a visit to the hospital shortly after I send you this email, and as my archival team are currently discussing matters with the police, I expect that to be my last act as a free man. This approach was not entirely what I expected, but it has done the job rather well. I hope you find your new role as head of the Institute as rewarding as captaining the Tundra. There are so many people working there, all with their own interesting lives, and all desiring your attention and support. I'm sure you will relish the challenge it will bring and enjoy every moment spent with the fine men and women of the Institute. In time, I'm confident they'll become like a family to you. I've attached my handover notes concerning the day-to-day running of the Institute to assist the transition, and an ebook you might find interesting reading as you take on this new chapter in your life. Of course, if you ever need a shoulder to cry on, I'm certain I will be able to find a way to call. I know how much you've always enjoyed our little chats, and I like to think our close and abiding friendship will survive my stay at Her Majesty's pleasure. Kind regards, Elias Bouchard, head of the Magnus Institute.
Shouldn't it be like former head? Departing head? Soon to be bitch ass arrested head?
No, fuck you. Statement begins.
Yes, exactly.
I promise nothing because I haven't prepped this, but I'm going to take a run at this one, okay?
There's a whole bunch of these, so I think we'll try and find the
do you want me to just do the Peter and Elias stuff?
I think we should just find the Peter ones, because otherwise you will literally be here all night. And that way other folks can go and read the chat.
It might be worth trying this. From Martin Blackwood, on behalf of Peter Lucas, to Group Institute All. Date, 1st March 2018, 9:54. Subject, February update. Attachments. Voucher PDF. Hi all.
Alex here.
Another month. They go by quickly, don't they? Things have been quiet all around, which I think we can all agree is good. We've had a 10% reduction in meetings and 15% reduction in phone calls, which is well on track for hitting our targets. I can also announce that the policy around headphones at work has been revisited. We've looked at the research, and it turns out encouraging people to work with headphones in is good for their productivity and morale. I've attached a voucher for 20% off a great set of noise cancelling headphones that Peter really recommends if you're just trying to block out the chatter and get your head down. From the departments. Research. They had sushi this month. It was good. Thanks for sharing as always, research. Wouldn't be the same without you. Libraries. The self-checkout test has gone so well that Diana's getting another 2 machines in. This is allowing the librarians more time in their offices at their desks to work on their restoration, doing reshelving and other concerns. Artefact storage. The kitchens are safe to use again, you'll be pleased to hear, so make as much toast as you please. Intake and customer service. Thanks to everyone who signed Jennifer's card and donated to the collection. She really loved the flowers and toys for the grandkids. Fred would like to remind everyone that waiting room 4 is closed for a reason and people should not enter it, even if they think it's a nice quiet place for a discreet smoke. Not only are there 12 security cameras in that room, there's also a one-way window, and now an ancient mirror that neither intake nor artefact storage have been able to remove. If you have looked... Sorry. It's quite difficult staying up there. If you have looked in said mirror at any point, please be assured that the marks will fade within 1 to 2 weeks. Please bear with us until this is removed and respect the closed sign. Archives. John is back. IT. Someone has uploaded an album by Grifter's Bone to the network and it's proving difficult to delete. If you do choose to listen to music while working until you can hear that it is safe to do so, please use your phones and not your work PCs. Thanks. Central and Operations. Sarah J has asked me to remind everyone that it's coming... It's coming up to time for annual reviews again. All line managers will be receiving their documents, and this shouldn't be funny, and an invitation to an e-learning session over the next few weeks about how to conduct the best possible reviews. I'm okay.
No,
I'm okay.
You're losing over reduced review scheduling.
In order to help your line report's career development, hope you're all well. Martin Blackwood, assistant to Peter Lucas. From Peter Lucas to Martin Blackwood. Subject, monthly updates. Hello, Martin. I think from now on it might be better if I took over sending these monthly updates to the Institute. Don't you? Kind regards, Peter Lucas, head of the Magnus Institute. From Peter Lucas to Martin Blackwood. Date 8th March 2018, 8:17 a.m. Subject, assistance required. This is going to go badly, I warn you now. Hello, Martin. I believe you are what is known as a...
Brace yourself. It's going to take him 4 tries to get through this line. It's going to be amazing.
I believe you are... Hold on.
Focus.
Lion face. Lemon face. Ooh. God, the next line's worse.
I know.
I believe you're what is known as a millennial. Is that correct? Unfortunately, I can't seem to get Radio 4 inside the Institute building due to all the static. However, when I mentioned this to a colleague of mine from the Tundra, now deceased, he informed me that apparently these days one can listen to the radio on the internet. He even suggested I might be able to hear old broadcasts of the shipping forecast on something called a YouTube. Could you research how to do this and then set it up for me? Kind regards, Peter Lucas.
You can just hear Martin muttering under his breath, okay, boomer.
I'm death or glory. I'm going to try for this one.
Okay.
From Jonathan Sims to Robin Putrell. Date 21st March 2018. Subject.
That went well.
Shut up! I'm getting there.
Come on.
I'm getting there.
Growl.
I'm getting there.
Growl.
Ugh!
John growls.
Priority 1, new laptop required. Equipment required, please include specs. Same laptop as before is fine, unless you've got one that's resistant to blood. Equipment 4, John. Reason for requirement. I got some blood in the keyboard of the old one while I was attempting to cut off my finger. It's going so well.
Try that line again.
I got some blood in the keyboard of the old one while I was attempting to cut off my finger, and it has ceased to function. Authorized by... I'm sorry. One more time. Authorized by me. Oh, I'm so sorry to all of them. Except I'm not. Anyway.
Next email.
Anyway. From Peter Lucas to Group Institute All. 2nd April 2018. Subject, March update. Hello, Institute staff. I hope you've all had a lovely March. I know I have. I took a week's leave to a private retreat and I couldn't recommend it enough. You never quite know yourself until you spend some time alone with yourself. A big announcement from me this month. Over the next 2 months, we will be beginning an office refurbishment. Now, I know the thought of change really worries people, but I just want to reassure you all from the bottom of my heart that this change will be for the best for everyone, and in a few months' time, you'll look back and won't believe you ever felt nervous. The fact of the matter is, nobody likes open-plan offices. They say they do. They say they'd love to be able to speak with their co-workers and collaborate. However, the reality is, when we looked at the science, they're just no good. And while the Institute doesn't have space to give everyone an office of their own, we'll be redesigning the interior so everyone has a private, walled, and soundproofed cubicle, all to themselves. No more arguing about thermostats. No more being stuck listening in on conversations that have nothing to do with you. No more unwanted interruptions. Just calm, meditative peace for us all. Unfortunately, allocating the budget for the refurbishment does mean we've had to tighten our belt buckles elsewhere. As such, for now, we'll be cutting down on the social budget. I know this is disappointing news, but I'm afraid we have a duty to our donors. And now, for your updates from the departments. Research. This month, the team went on a boat cruise on the Thames for Darren's 50th. It's to be hoped they don't lose out too much on all their team-building events with the budgetary changes. Libraries. Diana would like to encourage whoever it is who returned a lightener to the library instead of the lead-lined crates in artifact storage to come forward and speak to her so they can have a friendly discussion about proper storage procedures. Artifact storage. The corridor between rooms 6B and 7A is progressively shrinking, and it has been strongly recommended that all Institute staff avoid this area while the issue is being investigated. And congratulations to Melissa, who is pregnant with twins. Intake and customer service. Waiting room 4 is still closed, and the problem has unfortunately spread to waiting room 3. Fred recommends that if you hear screaming, you resist the temptation to join in, and instead block your ears and walk quickly past. Archives. The archives team now welcome back a second member of staff in as many months, with Alice Tonner, who you might better know as Daisy. Like John, she was also presumed dead, but turned out not to be. They must be the luckiest team in the whole Institute. IT. Michelle has asked me to inform all staff that the email server will be down this weekend for maintenance. Central and operations. Sarah in HR reminds all staff that annual performance reviews are due this month. In line with our revised policy on meetings, it is now encouraged to hold these over email rather than face-to-face. Regardless, they must be conducted by the end of April, and all review documents should be submitted to HR for our records. That's it from me this month. I hope you're looking forward to the privacy and peace of the refurbishments as much as I am. Kind regards, Peter Lucas.
There's so much of this, and it's all really,
Yeah,
really
we are just hitting the halfway point.
Oh, that one. There you go.
From Peter Lucas to Martin Blackwood. Date, 16th May, 2018. Subject, computer functionality. Hello, Martin. I'm in need of more of your millennial tech skills when you're finished with the department budgetary review. I've been sent a Word document with some text in it, but I'd like to get some of that text. Hold on. Hold. I've been sent a Word document with some text in it. It's the way he sounds so surprised. But I'd like to get some of that text into a different Word document. I'm hoping there's some way of copying the text from one to the other, rather than just retyping it all. Can you research this and get back to me?
Oh, these are good. The exchange between John and Alice is really good.
From Jonathan Sims to Alice Tonner. Date, 28th May 2018. Reproof. Absolutely not. I hate the show, Daisy. I'm telling you, this is the thing people do. You were the one who said you needed a new hobby. I can't remember Alice's voice, so I'm going to busk this. From Alice Tonner to Jonathan Sims. Date, 28th May 2018. Subject, reproof. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you just made all of those up last night just to mess with me. From Jonathan Sims to Alice Tonner. Date, 27th May 2018. Subject, proof. And there is a link to another AO3 story about, or in fact to an entire tag of AO3 stories involving the Archers.
Archer's fanfiction.
Magnus Institute Instant Messenger, Martin Blackwood. Conversation history with Jonathan Sims. Hi, Martin. I suppose you're probably not reading these. I just wanted to see if you were okay. I trust you. I do. I promised I would. Oh no, I'm fucking this up. Sorry, pardon my French.
Right. You're right. This is Martin.
Oh yeah.
This is John. Yep.
I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted. Asterisk. WANTED.
Because you spelled wanted wrong.
You know where I am if you ever need my help. To which Martin replies, please stop. Oh. From Jonathan Sims to Robin Potrell. Date, 17th June 2018. Priority 1. New laptop. Equipment required. Same laptop, since I don't think you've got one that can be transported through eldritch spiral dimensions and survive. Though the salt water probably didn't help either, if I'm honest. Equipment 4. Me. Reason for requirement. Work trip to Norway. Boat one way. The distortion via return. Basira may have been seasick on it too. Honestly not sure at what point it died, but when I turn it on, the screen is hypnotic in a way that makes me strongly recommend you do not attempt to fix it yourself. Instead, destroy it using some permanent physical method. Plastic explosives will do the job, but if you're unwilling to use them, then fire will also suffice. Authorized by me.
That's gonna become a gag. Most of these are... Oh, no. There you go. Go back down.
Magnus Institute Instant Messenger, Martin Blackwood. Conversation history with Peter Lucas. Martin, my password has stopped working again. Please reach out to AT and get it fixed. Hi, Peter. Way ahead of you, actually. Look at the post-it in your top drawer. This is the same as my old password, but with the number 2 on the end? Yeah, they expire regularly. Data protection again. So I set a calendar reminder to remind myself to update it for you. Just try incrementing the number every time it stops working. That is convenient. You are a very useful assistant at times.
We're just scrolling through them looking for other ones for Peter. There's a whole bunch of messages. I've put the link in the chat, and we'll do it in the show notes as well. Do go through and read all of these.
This is so freaking good.
These are just glorious. Well, Rude computer priority. Oh god, that was somebody with the caps lock stuck on. That was hilarious. I think that's it. I think the rest of these are John and Martin bits, which you can look forward to.
There's so much angst, folks. So much angst. It's great. Okay.
Oh. I'll put the link in the chat again one more time.
That's so much fun. It's so much fun. Good grief.
Such an eager crap boss.
There's some text in a Word file, and I want some of it in another Word file. Is there a way to copy that across? Could you look that up for me? Good grief.
We should get like a full cast recording of it, because there's so many different voices in it. It's really good.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
It would make a fun table read.
Wouldn't it?
Might have to recommend that.
This is what happens when we cause shenanigans.
Shenanigans. Exactly.
The thing which weirds me out so much is that Elias is very kind of Sex Panther. And John is that, but with added blood and thunder.
He wants to be.
Yes, he's just like, I am very intense and serious. Are you? No. Just, but there's something about the phrase, no, statement begins. just creases me up every time. Alex approved shenanigans.
Exactly. It's all Alex's fault, honestly.
I think that's it.
I think you should wrap it up.
I think we're about done. Time to transition back to camera big. Totes profesh.
Totes profesh.
Totes profesh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, folks. This has been an absolute riot. Just massive appreciation to all of you for listening in and watching us process our nonsense, as often we do. As ever, there will be a big old list of fun extra stuff on Twitter immediately after this. We will be back online on Sunday in the morning for
the boss fight of
Concrete. For what should be the final session for Concrete Genie.
So Concrete Genie is this gorgeous game. Is this really lovely game. Scoot over here.
Okay.
We'll come back on camera.
Okay.
Fine. I'm getting used to this. I'm getting used to being... Don't run over my keyboard.
I'm not running. It's fine. See? There we are. It's all good.
Okay. I've turned into a Powerpuff Girl. Okay. Enough with this. That was nonsense. Thank you very much, Chickaboo.
Thank you, Chickaboo.
So Concrete Genie starts off with this really lovely, relaxing kind of art game where you're doing urban renewal through painting, and it's really pretty and relaxing. And then you get to the final level, and it turns into combat. So that was a bit rough at the end. So we didn't get to finish the game. We are now in the big, gigantic boss arena area. So we're going to try that on...
Where we will defeat the boss by understanding them to death, and also art.
And combat, unfortunately.
And hitting. There'll be some hitting.
Hitting and dodging and stuff. So that'll be on Sunday. I am attempting some ridiculous nonsense for my birthday cake.
Go into detail.
Okay, so we were supposed to be on holiday in the US this summer. And one of the places I wanted to go was Christina Tosi's Milk Bar in New York. And one of my favorite kind of confections from Milk Bar is called an Arnold Palmer cake. So an Arnold Palmer is the nickname in the US for a drink that is half iced tea and half lemonade. And this is a cake which is layers of lemon mascarpone and tea cake and like almondy crumbly things and like a tea jelly and all sorts of ridiculous stuff. I have a 3-day regimen planned for all of the ingredients to make this cake over the next couple of days for my birthday, and we may be experimenting with taking the camera into the kitchen.
It's a cake where you have to make smaller cakes that become part of the cake.
Yeah, there's like
it's
all
like
sorts
Voltron.
of layers.
It's
great. And all sorts of ridiculous stuff. So we may be doing that over the course of this week as well, and then there'll be Concrete Genie on Sunday. And then we'll be back next Wednesday again for more bedtime stuff, bedtime stories and stuff. And then Alistair's Rusty Quill stream will be on Sunday, July 26th.
And, as is the way of things, I can tell you a little bit more about what we're going to be doing. I can tell you this is one of my all-time favourite pieces of fiction. This is, I think, one of my first exposures to horror, which, like all the best exposures to horror, happened way too young. This story is very special to me.
So we're going to do that. And we already have a very special extra length. How long is it? It's a couple thousand words, isn't it? We already have a very long shenanigan already planned as well. We do. So, but we're always looking for suggestions for opening monologues.
And remember, Alex approved.
I have to figure out how to do the scene transition animations so I can make the little ka-ching thing happen. But I'm not that skilled yet, so I have to. We need an emoji.
Yes.
We need the Alex approved emoji.
Yes. We need an emo Alex. An Alex emoji. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that, Specky.
Yes, no, Specky, all the credit for the stamp, because the stamp is amazing. And I think Specky should make stickers as well, because I would really like some. And with that, I think that's it. You want to go ahead and wrap it up?
Okay. Thank you so much for listening, folks. This has, as ever, been an absolute blast. We will see some of you on Sunday morning, and we'll hopefully see everybody back here next Wednesday. See you then.
Have a good night.